Hey YouTube, what's up? So in this video I'll be teaching you how to make a standard stencil last a very long time. I know I've used this method on this stencil, if you haven't seen it before, on many of my stickers, and it has lasted well over a year, and it's just on some standard thinner cardboard. And I've since switched the majority of my stickers to this like thin poster board. You've probably seen it around, and I like this just because it is very similar, but it's more accessible than this kind of cardboard or whatever. I found like a few sheets of these and used them, but the paint gets really thick on it after a long time, but you can crack that off. But so how do you do this? If you're using a standard kind of like a paper material, do not use like standard printer paper, but if you're gonna have something like this, it does deteriorate if you get it really soaking wet. So what I found is the most effective method is to create a kind of a seal around the edges and everywhere that you'll be spraying, so it doesn't get soaking in and doesn't deteriorate like a standard stencil would. If you've ever done anything with stencils, you know that they get really wet and then they don't perform, and then like the little bridges and whatever, they break, and you're left with a bad stencil. So what you're going to want to do is get some gloss paint or some kind of sealer that will put a layer on top of the paper or whatever cardboard material you're using, and then let that dry entirely before you do any stenciling of whatever, and that will kind of create a nice layer. And this stencil is for Annan. He purchased, I guessed it, me making one for him, so I made him a 3-layer stencil, and I'm just going to do this for him so it makes it really protective, so he doesn't have to do it on his own. So just a really thin coat, nothing major. You don't want to get it wet with this first coat either. You just want to go over it and create a protective and layer, and then you can do it on the back side as well, but you know, the front side is a necessity if you don't have to do it on the back side. And this method's more crucial for something like this because it does have a lot of little areas that could potentially break if they were to get warmed down, but this is pretty good for now. And it should definitely help the stencil last a lot longer and be an overall better stencil in the long run. So that's going to do it for me. Hopefully this tutorial helped you to kind of not have to buy like transparencies to cut your stencils on, and can use this method to kind of preserve them and make them last a little bit longer. And a big piece is that you don't want to be spraying 100+ of your stencil every time. You know, you gotta let it dry or whatever, so maybe only do 25 at a time, let the stencil dry or whatever, dab it off or dab the wet paint off to help it dry quicker or whatever, and you know, that'll just kind of give you an overall longer lasting stencil that in the long run you can get more stickers or whatever out of it, and higher quality ones at that. So it's gonna do it for me. Comment, rate, subscribe. Peace.